Oh, it is. It is another episode of Donno Daily here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I am Alex Donno. I am a Miami Dolphins fan. I am exhausted. This has been a crazy week. The only thing that's keeping me kind of optimistic for the final couple of days of this week, it's Thursday now. Friday's going to come tomorrow. I'm not going to have a show Friday, by the way. It doesn't mean I won't be tweeting. Like, if anything happens with the Dolphins hiring a coach or something like that, maybe I'll even do an emergency live. We'll see how tomorrow goes. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But the only thing that's keeping me kind of optimistic, for the end of this week, as terrible and as confusing as it's been to be a Miami Dolphins fan, is I still think there's a very good chance we have our head coach by the end of the week. And despite everything that's going on and all the negativity, I still think Mike McDaniel is going to be that man. If he was like so disgusted by, turned off by the allegations and the lawsuit, he probably would have canceled the follow-up interview, but he hasn't. So the fact that he's still coming in. Now, we did have a report this week about a guy going to a job interview, even though he knew he wasn't going to get it. So maybe that happens again, right? I mean, Flores knew, because Bill Belichick accidentally tipped him off, that he wasn't going to get the Giants job, and he still showed up for the interview. But that, it helped him with the ammunition that he needs for this lawsuit. But like in the case of Mike McDaniel, I've been saying it. Oh, hello, buddy. Salute to you too. I've been saying it with Mike McDaniel earlier in the week. All things considered, I want him to be the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Just from his perspective, I can understand for any prospective head coaching candidate how you could look at everything happening right now, whether you think the lawsuit is legitimate or BS or somewhere in the middle. There's still so much controversy and so much smoke surrounding Miami Dolphins ownership right now that I would totally get it if a coaching candidate would say, you know what, I don't think it's the right time for me to step into that toxicity. I'm good, okay? But apparently Mike McDaniel is still interested enough that he's doing the follow-up interview, which I think is going to happen tomorrow. There were some reports yesterday that they would be pushing, or the meeting was going to be today and then push back to tomorrow. And thank you, Cliff Esmiel. This is one of my favorite hats. I am a Batman guy, right? I mean, Marvel makes better movies lately, but man, the Dark Knight trilogy. And I grew up on Michael Keaton Batman, so I go way back, and I enjoyed those as well. Dominic is probably right about this. Everything is all Donno's fault. At about 3:15, we're going to talk with our good friend Hussam Patel, who is a big, big fan of Mike McDaniel. So I'm going to get Hussam's prediction if he thinks it's really happening this week, if McDaniel is going to be the guy. I want to throw a shout out to Brooklyn Rob, who, man, he's usually here bright and early. I haven't seen Brooklyn Rob in the chat yet. Guys, I have the receipts in my Twitter DMs because I talk to Brooklyn Rob a lot. He's great to interact with. He has been telling me for at least how dare you, Manny, throwing that message up there. How dare you? Actually, Cliff is a Juventus fan, so he approves that message. So for weeks, Brooklyn Rob has been telling me, because he's got some sources. He says he's got sauces. His sources have sources. He's been telling me for weeks it wasn't going to be Jim Harbaugh. That Jim Harbaugh would stay at Michigan, which is happening. That came out yesterday. We'll talk about that. So he told me Harbaugh would be staying at Michigan. He told me before Daboll took the Giants job, he told me it's not going to be Daboll in Miami. He said Mike McDaniel is going to be the guy. So we are another step closer to Brooklyn Rob's report / prediction being correct. Although I think there's a lot more to the story with this Harbaugh thing. I want to get to first. Okay, let me get to the Harbaugh first, and then I'll get to Stephen Ross's response to Brian Flores, because I don't want to lose my train of thought when I'm already talking about Harbaugh. So we found out last night. I was very surprised to find out that Jim Harbaugh, he was going back to, or staying, because he never actually left, that he would be staying at Michigan. I really thought he was going to wind up in Minnesota. Apparently, he thought he was going to wind up in Minnesota. Okay. So one of the theories, when we found out that Jim Harbaugh is going back or staying at Michigan, Obviously, you could understand how within the administration there and the athletic director, the university president at Michigan, why there would be some hard feelings, because not only was Harbaugh flirting with the NFL, he was flirting with the NFL at a really bad time for Michigan. Like, National Signing Day is happening yesterday, which is a pretty big day in college football. And on that same day, the head coach of a team with a top 10 recruiting class is in Minneapolis, Minnesota, interviewing for an NFL job. The timing of that sucked, and you could understand how there'd be some hard feelings there. It's the worst time. I mean, if you'd taken a job a couple of weeks ago, it's a different story. This was a really bad time for Harbaugh to be flirting with the NFL. And reportedly, Harbaugh told the Michigan AD, this is a one-time thing. I'm not going to hang you guys up to dry, hang you out to dry anymore. I will be the head coach at Michigan until you, not me, you decides you don't want me to be here anymore. So one of the theories that a lot of Dolphins fans had with the timing of Harbaugh deciding yesterday that he wasn't going to take up the interest in an NFL job and he was going to stay at Michigan. Oh, see there, Brooklyn Rob, you're a day late and $1 short, man. I just told everybody I have the receipts. You have been telling me for weeks, and all your predictions so far have come true. You were telling me for weeks it wasn't going to be Daboll in Miami. You were correct on that. You told me Harbaugh was going to stay at Michigan. You were correct on that. And you have told me for at least 2 weeks that it's going to be Mike McDaniel. That's the one piece of the puzzle that hasn't officially come true yet. But this Harbaugh story is crazy. So with the Flores lawsuit that's been in the news for the last 48 hours, a lot of the conspiracy theorists who have been assuming for weeks, right? The Dolphins head coaching job has been open for 3.5 weeks. And the second that job came open, a lot of people, myself included at that moment, thought this is a weird kind of sudden way to fire a head coach that comes off 2 consecutive winning seasons. I thought the day that they fired Flo, I thought the reason why Stephen Ross fired Brian Flores was this has got to be about Jim Harbaugh, that you're not going to make a decision like that if you don't already have the replacement and if it's not a very clear upgrade, which I think Jim Harbaugh absolutely would be. And we all know about Stephen Ross's relationship with Harbaugh. So, a lot of people have still operated under that same mindset. I've come to find out, or at least I've come to decide for myself, I don't necessarily think Harbaugh was some secret plan all along, but a lot of people held on to that. A lot of people held on to the idea that everything happening is a ruse, right? When Harbaugh was interviewing with Minnesota, some of us thought he's using Minnesota and then maybe Miami down the line for leverage with Michigan. Other people thought, no, he's using Minnesota, and Stephen Ross is using Minnesota as sort of the cheat code to get Harbaugh to Miami, because you remember Stephen Ross, the Michigan guy, the Michigan alum, the big time booster there. He loves the old blue and maize. He absolutely loves them, and he said it 3 weeks ago. I am not going to be the one to take Jim Harbaugh away from Michigan. So people thought the conspiracy theory went like this, that it's all a ruse with Minnesota, and then everyone at Michigan is going to realize he wants to leave for the NFL regardless. So it's not Stephen Ross taking Harbaugh away from Michigan. It's Harbaugh taking Harbaugh away from Michigan. And so then last night, when we find out, not only is he not going to Minnesota, he's also not coming to Miami. He's staying at Michigan. Many people thought, okay, that was still the plan all along, was to use the Minnesota as the ruse to get Harbaugh here. But the problem is now with the Flores lawsuit, Harbaugh decided, no. I don't want to be part of that mess, that toxicity. So a lot of people think that the reason why Jim Harbaugh is not only not coaching in the NFL, but not coaching the Miami Dolphins is because the Brian Flores lawsuit changed everything. I don't know about that, guys. So apparently, it seems to me like the Minnesota Vikings legitimately missed out on their shot to get Jim Harbaugh. So as the story goes now, Jim Harbaugh shows up to his interview in Minnesota yesterday acting like he already had the job. Like, he's already talking about his staff. He's not speaking in terms of if, he's speaking in terms of when and what he's going to do. And apparently Minnesota ownership didn't agree, that they weren't giving him the job. They were legitimately still deciding. And supposedly the interview was a disaster. Here's what Mike Florio had to say about it at ProFootballTalk.com. He says, by all accounts and appearances, Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh wanted to join the Vikings. By all accounts and appearances, the Vikings weren't fully sold on Harbaugh. And by the way, if that's true, that's dumb on their part. Like if they're really going to come out of this thinking we'd be better off with Kevin O'Connell than Jim Harbaugh, I believe the Vikings are making a mistake. So if this was really Minnesota's decision and not Harbaugh's decision not to be the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, I think that is a poor decision by the Vikings, and they've missed an opportunity at a great coach. Florio continued. He said, it apparently got awkward with Harbaugh basically treating the move as a done deal during his interview. And I love the example he uses here. We've all watched The Office, right? If you haven't, I can't help you. But he said, like Michael Scott did when he went to corporate, assuming incorrectly that he was getting Jan's job. That's a good example. With Harbaugh, everything is a little awkward, Florio writes, but so what? He wins. After multiple years of creating the impression that being, quote, just good enough was good enough for ownership, the Vikings declared that they intend to compete for championships. If they truly intend to do that, they should have hired Harbaugh. And I agree. My guy, Brooklyn Rob, he says, put this towards a Juventus jersey for Manny. I will do no such thing. Like, I mean, if
Forza Juve!
No. Oh, I'm gonna have to cancel my own show. If Ethan doesn't have the balls to do it, I'm gonna do it. I can't do a show where people are putting rhetoric out there like that. You know damn well, Brooklyn Rob, that even if that $10, that generous donation on the super chat, which I thank you so much for, and if anyone can spare a little change for us on the super chat, we encourage you to do so. And you don't have to. You can comment to your heart's content. I will say though that lately, not to sound like I'm going big time here. You know, I'll never forget the little people. But these last couple of weeks with all this Dolphins mayhem, we've been flooded with so many comments that it's been difficult to read all of them. Oh, no. Why is he putting this on? That's actually, I respect Alessandro Del Piero. I respect him. If I wouldn't wear his name and number on my back just because he represents Juventus to me, but I do appreciate his contributions to the Italian national team in a World Cup. He says, get Manny a Dani Alves Juve shirt. Manny's the type of guy that if he ends up buying a Juve shirt, he's going to end up buying probably every jersey he can find on the internet, because Manny he's like a crack addict with clothing. I mean, he's got every pair of sneakers God ever made, the ugly ones and the beautiful ones. He's going to have every jersey pretty soon, and I don't want this guy walking around in Juventus gear, but it is what it is. I digress. So let me go through with you, by the way, and I think this is really important, okay? Because on the last 2 episodes of this show, we've talked a lot about the Brian Flores lawsuit, and I want to emphasize something that I emphasized at the start of the show yesterday. I hate the fact that I see the toxicity surrounding this tearing some people apart. We all need to agree here for a second that we cannot say with any certainty that Flores is 100% telling the truth about everything he alleges. We can't say that. We also can't say that the guy is completely full of crap and he's making it all up. How do we know that? How does anybody know either way? Now, one of my big takeaways of the Flores lawsuit, and this specific part doesn't really pertain to the Dolphins, at least not optics-wise, right? Because the Dolphins, it is worth noting that, you know, prior to firing Brian Flores, the Dolphins at that time employed one of only 3 African-American coaches in the league, with Mike Tomlin and Dave Culley being the other 2. Culley is also out of a job, by the way, so we're down to 1. But at that point in time, and I'm just talking about the optics, okay? The Dolphins employed one of just 3 black head coaches in the league. They had a black head coach, a black general manager, and a black assistant GM. So at least by all appearances, the Dolphins don't look like they have a diversity problem or an overtly racism problem right now. I'm just talking about appearances. Like, people can say, well, what about this, that, and the other? I'm just saying when it comes to hiring practices. So the racial stuff is not a big part of the Dolphins narrative. What is a very big part of the Dolphins narrative, and Brian Flores, while he's explaining some of these unfortunate and crooked sounding circumstances that led him to losing the job here, he makes some really powerful allegations like Miami. Ninja Viking, thank you for the super chat. He says, this drama is all Belichick's fault. I blame him. Yeah, Bill Belichick, like he accidentally started World War III. It's like, what was the Gavrilo Princip was the guy who assassinated the Archduke Francis Ferdinand that started World War I. He did that on purpose. I'm pretty sure he meant to assassinate the Archduke, but basically Bill Belichick just did that by accident. Like it was friendly fire. Like he was trying to congratulate Brian Dable, but he sent the message to the wrong Brian. Like, come on, coach. Come on, Bill. I think we've all done that, right? You mean to send a message to somebody and you send it to the wrong person. Hopefully it's like nothing, personal or embarrassing, but I think it's happened to all of us before. Oh, and Ninja doesn't think it was an accident. He thinks it was done on purpose. I could believe that just based on how smart and devious Bill Belichick is. But at the same time, he's also a man in his 60s, and he doesn't seem like he knows how to use technology. So I could also believe it was an accident. Like I remember years ago, Bill Belichick trying to use, how all the coaches, they use those tablets now, the Surface tablets. And this was like the early years of the Surface tablet. This was a long time ago. And Belichick was on the sideline, like trying to do something on the tablet. And he got so frustrated, he just like chucked it behind the bench. So I picture when he tries to send messages from his phone, he probably sends messages to the wrong Brians like all day long. Like a message to a Brian never. And even the way that Flo reacted to it, assuming that like those messages were all in order and they weren't like, cut and pasted here and there. I don't think that was the first time Brian Flores accidentally got a message meant for Brian Dable. Like, did you notice that? When you're reading those text messages that have been published, like Flores was really quick to say, wait, coach, are you sure you weren't meaning Brian Dable? So it's like, it probably happens like twice a week. Like it's Brian Dable's birthday and Bill Belichick like send a message to Flo, happy birthday, coach. He's like, wait, coach, did you mean Dable or Flores? It doesn't seem like that was the first time that happened. We're going to bring on just in 1 second our guy, Hussam Patel. Hussam knows this by now, that a lot of times I'll schedule the interview for like an exact second. And I have a problem where I talk too much. And so sometimes I have a plan on how quickly I'm going to get to a point, and we get on a whole bunch of detours along the way. But, what I was saying before we got a little sidetracked with the Belichick stuff was we shouldn't be fighting. Like this shouldn't be tearing Dolphins fans apart, because I've noticed some people are like, oh no, Flo is just an a-hole. He's making everything up. Other people are like, oh no, this is all true. Flo is a saint. We should have never fired him. The truth probably lies somewhere in the middle, and we just do not know it yet. Our lawyer guest yesterday, Alan Fertel, said there are always three sides to a story, right? You've got, in this case, you've got the Stephen Ross side, the Brian Flores side, and then you have the truth, which is probably somewhere in the middle. But Flores made some serious allegations against the Dolphins. Now, this stuff may not be directly racial in nature, but especially the part about the $100,000 bribes, essentially, to lose more games in 2019. If true, if proven, that's a big problem for the National Football League and a huge problem for Stephen Ross, because that's directly violating NFL rules. And the fact that Stephen Ross has investments in gambling businesses, that could be against the law as well. So this is a huge, and Sean, thank you. He says, because Ross operated a betting company, I'm pretty sure the mob and the NFL involved. I mean, listen, bros, I know we all watch a lot of mob movies. Like at least the mob you're thinking about, like the Goodfellas in North Jersey, like they, I don't think they have too many of their hands in some of these gambling operations these days. Maybe they do, but I will not tolerate any anti-Italian discrimination. I will not let you disparage my people with these harmful stereotypes. I'm joking, by the way. Please don't think I'm trying to call anybody out in the chat. It's funny. JC1311 says, Donno, who do we turn to if McDaniel turns down the Dolphins after meeting with Ross? Hear me out. Godsey, Studesville, co-head coaches. Who says no? I don't think they would say no. And honestly, if McDaniel says no, and if Kellen Moore, supposedly Kellen Moore is like still in the mix, but I've heard from numerous people he's staying in Dallas. So if McDaniel says no and Kellen Moore is not coming, and you have all this toxicity with the lawsuit, like you might have to say, hey, guys, we got something pretty special with our offense under 2 coordinators. Maybe they bring Charlie Fry back into the mix, maybe 2 or 3 head coaches. Chris C, thank you so much. He says, if Flores knew 3 days prior to his interview that Dable was the one who got the job, why would he still show up? Please make it make sense. No, here's how it makes sense to me. Flores, when he got those texts, and this is me speaking, this is my opinion. I don't think Flores has specified this point on why he still showed. I mean, he did say, because I was watching all of his interviews yesterday, he said that he still showed up to the interview because I think there was a little bit of disbelief and like he thought maybe I still have a chance. Maybe Bill was wrong. I still need to show up because it's hard, even if you know you're not getting the job, it may be hard not to show up. That's not my explanation, though. My explanation, this is my opinion, is as soon as he got those messages from Bill Belichick, that's when Flores got really fed up and he started to think about this lawsuit. I don't know exactly when he started getting lawyers involved. This all developed pretty quickly, of course. So Brian Flores may have simply shown up to that interview because if he didn't show up, there's no lawsuit. Think about it that way, guys. If Brian Flores did not show up to the interview and then they gave the job to Brian Daboll, how can then Flores allege the reason why I didn't get the job and he did is because they'd planned this in advance? You have no argument then. So think about it that way. He had to show up to the interview because if he doesn't show up to the interview, you can't then say this guy got the job over me because they had decided it already. So he's got no lawsuit. So think about it that way. That's why I don't think he would ever admit that because him admitting that kind of makes it feel like his intent was to build a case here, which doesn't sound great, but it makes sense to me. Like he had to show up to the interview because there's no lawsuit if he doesn't. All right, let me finally read this statement from Stephen Ross because Flores made two very serious allegations, although one of them a lot more serious because the whole tampering thing with Tom Brady, we might just be desensitized to it because I think this stuff happens all the time in the NFL and the NBA and probably the NHL. Tampering is just so common that we're desensitized to it. But the thing about $100,000 per loss, that's powerful. Okay. Thank you, Alfredo. Alfredo says Flores appeared on CBS Morning on Tuesday morning, and Nate Burleson said that his legal team reached out to them 1 week before the booking. So he planned to sue 3 days before his interview. So that backs up what I'm thinking. That backs up the idea that he went into that interview with the Giants already knowing he was going to sue the NFL, and you can't sue the NFL if you don't go to the interview. So, you got to think about this. What do we got now? Well, this is very suspenseful because Manny has crappy internet, so it takes a while to load. Okay, hold on. This is from Benjamin Albright. Flores may be telling the truth, and there definitely is a systemic problem with getting minorities head coaching opportunities. But after this thing broke, talking with a lot of league people here in Mobile, Senior Bowl going on, there was a lot of skepticism about his version regarding Denver and the New York Giants. Yeah, the Denver thing is wild. But hold on. Let me read Flo's statement because my guy Hussam Patel is going to strangle me. In fact, let me bring on Hussam. You can be present for me reading the statement. Is that exciting to you at all?
Am I ever going to get the chance to talk today?
No, I mean, I have a lot to say. Hold on. Let me just read the statement, then I want everybody to react to it. So Stephen Ross said, quote, with regards to the allegations being made by Brian Flores, I am a man of honor and integrity and cannot let them stand without responding, Ross wrote. I take great personal exception to these malicious attacks, and the truth must be known. His allegations are false, malicious, and defamatory. Defamatory. I said it right the first time. We understand that there are media reports stating that the NFL intends to investigate his claims, and we will cooperate fully. I welcome that investigation, and I am eager to defend my personal integrity and the integrity and values of the entire Miami Dolphins organization from these baseless, unfair, and disparaging claims. And listen, for Stephen Ross's sake, I'm glad he responded because, you can't let this just hang out there, right? And I'm glad he got a chance to tell his side of the story. I wouldn't expect anything different, though, Hussam, because whether Ross is guilty or innocent of this, he's never going to come out and say, you got me. My bad, bro. Like, obviously, he's going to deny it strongly.
The same way John Elway did it as well, if Manny can put
Yeah.
it up. But yeah, look, I mean, and Albright was there down in Mobile as well. And he was talking to mainly people of color within the NFL personnel and scouting department as well, basically saying, there may be some skepticism to what Brian Flores has actually said. And in regards to this lawsuit, I mean, it's a perfect message, but the messenger is not the best.
Mm,
Now, I just don't know if you can really prosecute something like this based on racial bias. And I don't know if it can be certified, but I do think that the entire Bill Belichick text thing is a huge smoking gun for
yeah.
enough evidence to get this into a discovery process. And that process, it takes like 4 months. And Barry Jackson tweeted out that the first pre-trial hearing will be on March 3rd. And look, if it makes it past a motion for summary for the judge, I don't know how on racial bias, just in terms of legality, this can move forward. Maybe it can come to tampering based on the bribery charges, going after somebody, going after possibly a quarterback like Brady within free agency. But there's a lot of factors coming into play.
So what do you expect to happen? I did. I'll let you cheat a little bit in case this might influence your answer, because I spoke to an attorney yesterday who's way smarter than me. He's probably on par with you because you're kind of a genius as well. But he basically said, and there's no guarantee of this, but that the NFL is really going to want to settle, right? And,
Yeah.
and like some people might look at that like, oh, if you settle, it's an admission of guilt. But the problem is, you mentioned the term discovery. So if they let this go far enough that this goes into discovery, and then investigators have carte blanche to go through all of the emails sent from basically every server of every NFL team, you're
Of
going to
every
find,
NFL owner of all
yeah,
32 teams, you got to think, man, the NFL ownership, they're all millionaires, billionaires. They all have each other's backs, and you would think they would pressure the NFL to settle. In reality, the NFL doesn't want this big of a blowback. And you got to think, man, the NFL the past couple seasons, they've really promoted racial diversity, equity, things like that. Then when the entire Brian Flores news comes out, an hour later comes out saying, "Oh no, this is all incorrect. Like there's no evidence of any of this." Within 1 hour, how can an organization who's got an NFLPA president who's a minority have other people in their league offices who are minorities, and within 1 hour say, "Oh yeah, I know this is all not true. There's no evidence to support any of this
right.
claim." Like the
Very
if
fishy.
this does go to court, like Flores and the other people who are in this class action lawsuit, it's going to be really bad for the NFL, and they're going to receive a lot of blowback. And I don't think the NFL and primarily Commissioner Goodell wants that.
No, absolutely not. Because if you have carte blanche to go through all the electronic communication, chances are you might find some other skeletons that don't necessarily directly even relate to this case. But you go back to the whole fiasco for the NFL with the whole John Gruden thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or in this case, like let's talk about Stephen Ross specifically. If any of this stuff is proven or even corroborated, right? Because we got to remember, guys, the world we live in today, and this is a civil matter, not a criminal matter. So you can't even just use the phrase innocent until proven guilty here, because if the NFL thinks, hey, you know what, Stephen Ross even being involved in this, it's damaging our shield, it's damaging our image, right? So if any of this stuff can be corroborated, how bad could this get for Mr. Ross? Could we see a situation where he's forced out or forced to sell?
I do think that is a possibility, and even for the settlement, maybe there could be a clause that says Ross would have to sell the team, forfeit the team. But at this point, I don't think the 31 other owners want all of their information out there. And I think, they'll talk to Ross and possibly say, again, this is my opinion. I'm not claiming that I have a source on this knowledge, but I do think that they'll probably talk to Ross and say, hey, you already have an owner, somebody who you're going to sell to, which is Bruce Beal. Why don't you just go ahead and do that, and just Ross goes away? It essentially, it'll be a sacrifice for the NFL. Like Stephen Ross does not still become the owner for the Miami Dolphins, and Bruce Beal does, who's a really, really good friend of Stephen Ross.
Somebody told me he's a Patriots fan, which would be I don't know if that's for sure true or not, but I don't know if I want Miami Dolphins owner to be a Patriots fan. Hopefully he can put that aside. But I want to read this statement. Hussam actually sent it to us here in the back room. The statement from John Elway. Now, and then I want to get Hussam's take on the Broncos allegations, which to me, those were kind of the oddest allegations. So basically, Flores said that when he was interviewing for the Broncos head coaching job 3 years ago, he thought it was a sham interview. They'd probably already decided on Vic Fangio, because he claims they showed up hours late to the interview, and they, including John Elway, were disheveled, and they appeared to be drinking the night before. I don't think he was taking breathalyzers or anything like that. So that was his opinion, and that's kind of where it gets a little bit messy, because that's a pretty strong take to basically accuse them of showing up drunk or hungover without any explicit proof on that. So as you can imagine, Elway was not happy to hear this allegation. He said, while I was not planning to respond publicly to the false and defamatory claims by Brian Flores, I could not be silent any longer with my character, integrity, and professionalism being attacked. I took Coach Flores very seriously as a candidate for a head coaching position in 2019 and enjoyed our 3.5-hour interview with him. Along with the rest of our group, I was prepared, ready, and fully engaged during the entire interview as Brian shared his experience and vision for our team. It's unfortunate and shocking to learn for the first time this week that Brian felt differently about our interview with him. For Brian to make an assumption about my appearance and state of mind early that morning was subjective, hurtful, and just plain wrong. If I appeared, quote unquote, disheveled, as he claimed, it was because we had flown in during the middle of the night, immediately following another interview in Denver, and we're going on a few hours sleep to meet the only window provided to us. I interviewed Brian in good faith, giving him the same consideration and opportunity as every other candidate for our head coaching position in 2019. I guess just from Elway's perspective, I could understand him feeling the need to make a statement, because, Flores didn't say this directly, but it basically kind of made Elway out to sound like a drunk a little bit. So I can understand him wanting to come out and defend himself.
Right. I mean, he's going to defend himself. He has his side of the story. Brian Flores has his side of the story. And as the attorney said yesterday, the third story is basically the truth. Everybody has their own perspective. Everybody has their own opinion of things. I could say right now, go on a different podcast and say, Donno was a drunkard. And then you could say, I'm accusing you for being insensitive.
Right.
There's always the truth about everything. Now, I'm not saying Coach Flores was wrong. I'm not saying John Elway is wrong or right. And I'm not saying Flo is wrong or right either. But there's always three sides to a story, as we're saying. As for all of this, I respect Brian Flores as a coach. And man, he's potentially – I really don't think he can get another coaching opportunity in this league. And he did tell the Texans and Saints organization that he was going to go file a lawsuit anyway within his interviews. He was truthful. He was honest. And look, he's basically giving up his career to pursue this. And a lot of people are coming out in support. I'm coming out in support of this too. Now, people might like it. People might not. But it is the right thing to do.
Because a big thing for me, Hussam, is there's probably there are very few in the history of the world like perfect martyrs, right? Everybody's human, and the way that I look at it listen, the reasons why Flores was supposedly fired, personality issues, lack of collaboration. Okay, listen, he doesn't like the way that portrays him, and I don't know exactly what the truth is, but maybe there is some truth to that. Maybe he is imperfect. One of the things that I look at here is, if this lawsuit, which is a class action suit, and others can join it. It sounds to me like Hugh Jackson's going to join it, because I was watching him on ESPN last night, and he felt like he was treated in a similar way during his 2 years with the Cleveland Browns, and he spoke up
Apparently,
in
he was
favor of
paid to
Flo.
tank as well. Jimmy Haslam
Yeah.
paid him well.
Jimmy Haslam sounds like a much more organized alleged briber, because he basically had these like various incentives in the contract that like didn't really include winning games. It included like how young your roster was and how many draft picks you were able to get. So he was like if the allegation of Ross was, yeah, he told me I'll give you 10 or 100 grand per loss. That's a little clumsy, I think, compared to the way that Jimmy Haslam tried to do it. And yeah, but I agree, Hussam, with what you're saying about Flo. Like, I don't see him as perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Now, if this lawsuit does end up like spearheading a massive reform of the NFL's hiring processes, that could be a good thing, a very good thing that comes from a guy that a lot of you don't like. So I think we need to accept that both things might be true, that Flo is far from perfect, but also something good can come out of this. And I want to address this from Chris C, because I see this a lot, and it's a good debate. No question, it's a good debate. He says he preaches, talking about Flo, the integrity of the game. However, he stayed on a team when his owner tried to tamper and tank. A true man of honor and integrity would have left that situation and put them on blast. And again, this comes back to very few perfect martyrs or whistleblowers, because like Hussam, people who like expose corrupt governments and corporations, whistleblowers, they don't usually do it while they're gainfully employed. Like usually, and this is a very human thing, okay? You're more likely to blow the whistle when you have less to lose, right? Because you may be at a job, and I've been at jobs before. I haven't been a part of any scandals like this, but I've been at jobs where I didn't really like people I worked for, right? But it's like, I still don't necessarily need to rattle the cage here, because I do have a family to feed, and I'm trying to make a living, and this is a great opportunity. I mean, in Flo's case, he had one of only 32 NFL head coaching jobs in the world. So so I can understand it, why you can still be upset while you're on the job, but you're not going to create a lawsuit when you have everything to lose. He doesn't have nearly as much to lose right now. Now he is probably taking himself out of consideration to ever be an NFL head coach again. But right now, not having the job, usually whistleblowers do it after they're fired, Hussam.
Yeah, and they usually do, or when they're possibly on their way out. They tell the press, the media, or their source, whatever was happening, they gather the intel, give the information out, and once they leave, it all comes out. It all comes out. And then organizations, it's a PR thing, man. I feel like this case, it's more so a PR fight for the NFL, the organizations involved, more so than it is something like you would look at a legality case.
Yeah. By the way, and people also point out he was with the Patriots for how many years. This is a funny point by Brooklyn Rob. He's fine with cheating as long as it's to win, not lose, right? I mean, deflating some footballs, filming some other team's practice sessions. We're trying to win games, not lose games. Now, I can understand like why he waited till after he was fired, but like another thing is, if all of this was true, it does seem a little hypocritical if he was the top advocate to trade for a quarterback with 22 pending sexual assault cases, but then but he's too good to take a bribe to lose a couple of games. So apparently, it's like, again, nobody's perfect.
Apparently Jordan Schultz, who I don't really trust as a source saying this, said that Flores and Watson don't even have each other's phone numbers and haven't even contacted each other. But and Jordan Schultz says that basically Jim Harbaugh was pretty good to get that Vikings job. He also said that McDaniel was going to be interviewing on Thursday, when in reality it is tomorrow.
So basically you're telling me I should not take anything this person says seriously.
Exactly.
All right. So first, all right, I want to move on from Flores. And until next time, because I'm sure this is going to be a story for a while. What do you think happened with Harbaugh? Because some people think he was using any NFL opportunity as leverage with Michigan. I don't really feel that way. Other people feel like it was actually Stephen Ross and Jim Harbaugh kind of using Minnesota to say, hey, look, they tried to get him before we did. So I didn't take it from Michigan. Then there are reports, which I don't know. I'm starting to believe this because enough good people are reporting it. Jim Harbaugh actually thought he had the job in Minnesota. Like, he wanted the job. He thought he had it, and he just didn't read the room. So what do you think happened there with Harbaugh, who is now back at Michigan with his tail between his legs?
Well, did you read my article about making sense of the Harbaugh to Miami and Harbaugh to Vikings and Michigan rumors?
No, actually, I did not.
Just sent it over into the chat, but
I'll pull it
basically, it was reported he was going to have an interview scheduled with the Vikings, and he was mulling NFL offers. Look, Jim Harbaugh is a man. He's got a goal. He's got a vision, and he wants so desperately to get that goal or get that vision. Now, the thing is, he lost in the Super Bowl as a head coach of the San Francisco 49ers to the Baltimore Ravens against his brother, John Harbaugh. Like, imagine losing to your brother in the Super Bowl. Okay? Just imagine that. And if he has a sense that he can accomplish something like the Super Bowl, he's going to do everything he can to get back at it. Now, the thing is, being at Michigan and being in the NFL, you have more so control of who you want at Michigan than the NFL in terms of personnel, roster, what you want to do with them. And Michigan was going to give him whatever he wanted. He just wanted to get that control in the NFL like he did at Michigan and win a Super Bowl. Now, if he could win a Super Bowl with Minnesota, who hasn't won a Super Bowl in their entire
I was about to say, history, I can't think of a one.
Good for him. Good for him. Now, the NFL is better in terms of college because now in college you have recruiting, you have new NIL deals, you have the transfer portal as well. I never really got the sense that he was actually going to become an NFL coach because what my sources were saying that he's a Michigan dude. Yeah. He bleeds blue and gold, kind of like Stephen Ross.
Yeah.
Kind of like Stephen Ross. So I just never got the sense that he was actually in place to go to the NFL. Oh, I think we lost Alex. I think we lost Manny. You there? I think we lost Donno there, but if you guys want me to continue, I mean, the buzz around Harbaugh and many Dolphins fans, they wanted him in Miami because of that. There he is.
I got kicked out of my own show. You know what happened? I pull up your wonderful article at dolphinsatb.com, and I think it might be time to get a new laptop because pulling up one more tab, it just did one of those things where everything stopped moving. So everybody should read Hussam's story at dolphinsatb.com. Just make sure you don't have too many tabs open.
Thanks, Alex. It was the Hussam show for a good 30 seconds, and I really enjoyed that power.
I thought maybe you kicked me out because
how? I don't even have control.
So you're not an admin when you come in here. Okay.
No, I'm not an admin when I come here. It's probably Manny. I think he doesn't like you for that shoes comment.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he just wanted to get rid of me.
And also the Juventus comment too.
Oh, well, see, I kicked him out for that. So obviously I missed part of what you were saying there because you were riding solo. And good on you for you kept going, right? Because I didn't know. I thought maybe I'd come back and Hussam is panicking. You are a true professional, sir. It's
because I host 2 other podcasts, man. I'm experienced.
Yeah. So I don't know if you said something along these lines, but let's close off the Harbaugh thought with do you think that he was ever truly in play here? You did just say he bleeds. It's actually blue and maize, by the way. It's not blue and gold. Maize and blue and maize, or what they call it.
Yellow and blue, whatever.
Yeah, good enough. Good enough. Thing. Do you think he was ever in play down here?
Oh, no. 100% not. It was either Miami or Minnesota, and that's what my source told me. Look, Harbaugh has done the most what he could do at Michigan, and I really don't think he can win a national title with all those big powerhouse school SEC teams and Ohio State in his conference. And frankly enough, Michigan's Mel Tucker and Penn State's James Franklin, they have lucrative contracts. And Harbaugh took a pay cut at Michigan to really, beat Ohio State and make the college football playoffs. James Franklin and Mel Tucker, they're making $9.5 to $10 million a year. Harbaugh was took a pay cut from $8 million to $4 million. And now that he's made the playoffs, beat Ohio State, gives him all the incentive to get that contract at Michigan and have the power.
Do you think Bill Belichick did it on purpose?
You know, I was talking to my dad. He's been a Dolphins fan for like 30 plus years, and God bless this man. He's never seen a Super Bowl for the Dolphins in his
Probably
lifetime.
never
Same
will.
as me. He did say Marino. He did see Marino, and Marino is his favorite quarterback. But my dad was telling me that there was an article he was reading saying that Bill Belichick did this on purpose, which seems very Belichickian for me. But I just don't know, man.
Yeah,
I don't know.
If he was like Sean McVay's age, I could see it. Like if you could put Belichick's brain in Sean McVay's like 36-year-old body, and in that sounds creepy. I don't know, but if he was like 30 years younger, I could see Belichick doing it on purpose. But to me, it's fully believable to think Belichick just doesn't know how to work his goddamn cell phone. And that, like, and I was saying this before you came on, Hussam.
I mean, he doesn't even use the Surface pads. He uses his little notebook and thing on the sidelines.
No, but like, didn't you notice, like, on the photos of those texts that were posted, Flores was so quick to say, "Oh wait, Coach, did you mean this for Brian Daboll?" He was so quick to make that assumption. And I know you're going to say, well, Daboll also interviewing for the Giants job, but still, like, he was very quick to realize he's texting the wrong guy. That makes me think every time Brian Daboll has a birthday, Bill Belichick is texting Brian Flores by mistake.
Happy birthday, Brian.
Yeah. So he's probably like, oh, Coach does this every year. So Coach, are you?
So how did
Daboll all the time? You mean to text Daboll?
Bill Belichick know that Daboll was going to get the job 3 days before everybody, including Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter? I mean, we all knew Daboll was the favorite for the Giants and Miami, but
it's easy how he knew. He's part of the club. Like, he may not be an owner. Like, Hussam, you and I know this stuff. All the politicians are friends. They all make human sacrifices together in those like secret society meetings that they have. It's the same way. And you know what? I threw out the tinfoil hat because I don't want to make people think that anything I say is illegitimate. Like, we know the select few billionaires and politicians and lobbyists who run the world from behind the scenes, they're all in cahoots. They all meet together and they all plan. They plan every stock market crash. It's like all this stuff is planned beforehand. You know, the NFL is like a microcosm of that. That all these owners work together, and a guy like Bill Belichick, who's not an owner, like he's been around forever. They tell him things. So it's like I think this is an example of like what a boys' club and what a fraternity it is. That, you know, Bill has enough connections, you know, that are plugged into this stuff where somebody probably told him like, hey, Bill, you know, this guy did Daboll you're friendly with, you know, he's getting the Giants job. And then all hell broke loose from there.
Bill Belichick is pulling the strings everywhere, man. He's got Goodell in his pockets. He's got all the owners in his pockets. He's got the teams in his pocket. He's got the players in his pocket too. You know, I would not. You know, I'm not being serious here, but Alex, I'm taking a page out of your playbook. But I wouldn't be surprised if somehow Aaron Rodgers goes up to New England and brings Devontae Adams and, you know, his players with them. There's already a team built there. Just putting on my tinfoil hat.
I like it.
Aaron Rodgers, the Patriots wins a couple Super Bowls as well.
That would see. I'm going to mark the tape on this conversation, and I'm going to give you credit if that happens. Now, okay. Parting thoughts here on the Dolphins. I'm at least breathing a sigh of relief that it doesn't seem like all the toxicity is like making coaching candidates back out of interviews, because everything we understand is Mike McDaniel is coming back, right? Probably tomorrow, even though some people try to report it's happening today. He's having his follow-up interview. I've got to think he's the favorite for this job. Is there even, Hussam, is there any real competition? Because it sounds to me like Kellen Moore is not even leaving Dallas. So is it Mike McDaniel or bust?
I think it is Mike McDaniel as the favorite. He's been reported as the favorite. Everybody wants him. The fans want him. The front office wants him too. I'm a little bit taken aback by this Kellen Moore news. Either he's the backup plan for McDaniel, or he either is the backup plan or has a true legitimate shot, which from an evaluation perspective, a little bit shocks me because he's been coaching for the last 2-3 years, while there's other qualified coaches like McDaniel, like Leslie Frazier. I mean, even possibly within their own staff, like a Gerald Alexander, which could kill for a head coaching job. So
Yeah.
I do think that McDaniel is the favorite. I just don't know how I would feel if McDaniel does not become the coach, or if they don't offer him a contract, or if they offer him a contract and he declines. It says something about the organization for their last 20 years of incompetence, gross mismanagement, the front office shenanigans, and the entire team overall.
I love it. Excellent job. By the way, people, you and I have inspired people to engage in their own conspiracy theories in the live chat. Hussam Patel, you want to check out all of his work, 5reasonsports.com, finmaniacs.com, dolphinsatb.com. Just make sure you don't have too many tabs open. And you've been virtually covering the Senior Bowl, right? And anything, and that's very much been kind of lost in the shuffle for me, given everything else going on. So has anybody really stood out to you there so far?
FSU edge rusher. I know we're Canes fans. We don't like to talk anything about the Knowles, but Jermaine Johnson, the second edge rusher, 6'5", almost 240 pounds. He's only been an edge rusher for 1 year, and he is on a tear, Alex. He's on a tear at the Senior Bowl. Now, look, doesn't have much reps as a pass rusher, but if a team could mold him, and if Miami doesn't sign Agba, Jermaine Johnson could be a second-round pick, possibly, maybe early first, if you really, really want him. Another guy is, offensive tackle, Bernhard Raymond. Miami needs tackles.
Yeah, they
obviously.
do.
Central Michigan guy from the Chippewas. I believe he's from Austria. He's somebody who could man the left or right tackle side because, I mean, let's be honest, Miami doesn't really have tackles. Like, they have a guy who was a rookie last year in Austin Jackson, and you have the turnstile, Jesse Davis. So I think if you want to upgrade, take the upgrade over Jesse Davis. Keep developing Liam Eichenberg. As for wide receiver, I've said it since my scouting series last summer at FinManiacs. Christian Watson is the real deal. He is 6'4", 220, runs within the high 4.3s, very low 4.4s.
Yeah.
He was Trey Lance's favorite target at North Dakota State. Very, very athletic receiver. Quick, speedy, can run the routes. He's just a big body that can play and attack the ball in the air. He just really needs to develop his route tree and just get more experience playing up against top prospects and top talent like in the NFL.
Awesome job as always, sir. Hussam, and make sure you guys find him on Twitter there at Hussam Patel. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week.
Right there.
Awesome job. Yeah, right there. Good stuff, man. And I love it. He even had to carry the show for like 35, 40 seconds when they kicked me off the site. I seriously thought I may not be able to get back, and it's going to be the Hussam Patel show. Some of you would probably prefer that, and it's fine. But I was able to get back on. Folks, a couple things. You're not wrong here, Tony. He says, Tony 2 times says, and remember, of course, Flo was at New England for a long time before he came to Miami. Deflategate, Spygate, and general scumbaggery. Flo is there for all of that. Now he's a man of moral integrity. I'm not concerned. I'm not all that concerned with that part of it. Unless you think that if he's the type of guy you think lacks some moral integrity, that he might have completely made up the $100,000 thing and the tampering thing and all the allegations against the Giants and Broncos. So if you want to look at it that way, I guess I can see where your logic comes from. The way that I look at it is you don't necessarily have to be someone of high moral integrity to also be right. Right. So this, to me, these allegations, I mean, first of all, the racial stuff, that's not really any breaking news here. I think we've all known for the last 20 plus years. I think it's been like 20, 21 years since the Rooney Rule was instituted. We've all known it's a joke. We've all known it's a mockery. Even if you see just like the percentage of black head coaches, and well, there are no black owners, and now we're down to just one black head coach. It's like, you can make a reasonable conclusion that, the NFL is, run by a boys club of white billionaires, and there are not a lot of minority opportunities. So that's been something that's been alleged and talked about for decades. So and Flo sheds a light on some of that stuff. So that's really nothing new. But as far as the allegations against the Dolphins go, I hope they're not true, especially the $100,000 payments for losing games. Like, I hope that can be disproven. That's the more concerning thing to me. The tampering thing, I guess I'm just so jaded to it because it happens all the time. Like, am I going to be upset that they tried to woo Tom Brady with a yacht? Like, that doesn't really offend me or upset me. But the $100,000 bribe allegation, it's very, very serious, and I'm not automatically going to discredit Flo's claim just because he may or may not have as high moral fiber as you say he does. I got to see how this plays out. I can tell you guys that despite so many off the field things we talk about with the NFL these days, there's going to be a pretty big game happening in about a week and a half between the Rams and the Bengals. You know that game. You know that game that happens at the end of the season. My friends, you can bet on it at America's favorite sports book, betus.com, which is available in Florida. Hallelujah. You could use betus.com in Florida, access the full site, and when that big game happens, you'll be able to bet props, spreads. You can bet how long the national anthem is going to be, the coin toss, player props. It's going to be so much fun. We do this every year, betus.com. And guys, we have the best bonus in the industry for you on America's favorite sports book. They give you the best bonus in the betting space. Sign in, log in, create an account, and deposit with our code. When you make your deposit, it's very easy. They'll ask you, do you have a promo code? You do have a promo code. We're giving one to you, 5RSN125. You see it on the screen there, 5RSN125. When you make a deposit with that code, they give you a 125% sign-up bonus. How good is that? If you deposit $100, they give you $125 in free play money on top of your deposit. It's so good, my friends. And you can bet on all the games, NBA, NHL, NFL, UFC fights, international soccer. They have a full casino right there on the site. You can play blackjack for real money on there. You can play slot games and table games. It's like having Las Vegas on your smartphone. betus.com. You bet, you win, you get paid. betus.com. The Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill. You should know this by now. This is our official sports bar. Locations all over Broward County. The food is so good, guys. The fresh seafood, the burgers and sandwiches, the salads are awesome, the pasta dishes, the baby back ribs. It's a great place to grab a drink or two because they have 2-for-1 happy hour all day, every day. Just ask for the 2-for-1 drinks. They will hook you up. The beer is ice cold. They got TVs all over. Even in the patio, they got big screens. Eat inside or outside. It's such a good time, guys, at the Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill, where you come for the food and stay for the fun. And we have an official fantasy sports partner here of the 5 Reasons Sports Network, and it is prizepicks.com. Sign up with our code 5, F-I-V-E. Sign up with our code, and they will match your first deposit 100%, up to $100. Fantastic stuff. You deposit $100, they give you $100 of free play money. And Prize Picks, it's just you versus the numbers. This is so innovative and it's so fun. It combines my love for daily fantasy and parlays. At Prize Picks, you simply select 2, 3, or 4 players, and you can go cross sport, by the way, which is a lot of fun. And you predict if they're going to go over or under their fantasy projection. You can make 10 times your money for getting 4 predictions right. So sign up at either the Prize Picks mobile app, which is great, or prizepicks.com. Use our code FIVE, 5, F-I-V-E, and get a 100% match. I want to let you guys know, for those who are in South Florida, or even if you're not, you can listen. I'm going to be filling in to host Larry Bluestein's show tonight, the South Florida High School football show. Blue, as you guys know, and there is a GoFundMe page to donate to help his family. He's gone through a journey, my friends. For the last 3 weeks, he's been very, very ill. He had some bad pre-existing conditions that were set off by COVID. He's a kidney transplant recipient from about 10 years ago. He has a new kidney for about the last 10 years, which, there's a lot of medication you have to be on, and it makes your general health difficult. He also had some other issues that were really hit hard by the illness that he had, and he's gone through a journey, guys. We talked about it within the last week and a half. For a while, he was on a ventilator, sedated. Prayers have been answered. He is off the ventilator, and he's actually been sitting up and eating a little bit, doing really well. And the last word that I got is he's been moved from the hospital into a rehab facility, and he has a private room there, which is fantastic. He's starting his physical therapy. I think he's starting it tomorrow morning. And so he is on the road to recovery, and there are a lot of expenses that come in. So there is a GoFundMe page to donate, and just all this to say, I wanted to give you some background on how he's doing because it's very important. But I am going to be I'm going to be keeping his radio show warm until he's ready to come back, which I hope, knowing Blue, it's going to be before you know it. He will be ready to come back. But I'm going to be on 560 WQAM tonight, 8 to 10 p.m., hosting the South Florida High School Sports Show. I don't know even 1% about high school sports like Blue does because he is the effing man, but I will be talking a lot about National Signing Day in college football yesterday and where a lot of the talent within the state of Florida ended up and how Miami did with their recruiting. So we're going to have a good show tonight. If you're not local to listen on the radio, you can listen on the Odyssey app or Odyssey.com. You just select 560 WQAM, and I'll be on for a couple of hours, keeping Blue's seat warm here tonight. And we'll let people know on that show how they can donate and help out his family, because he and his loved ones have been through a really, really difficult time, and he's coming out of it, but it is a process, little by little. I want to throw some shout outs before we wrap this episode. Oh, and also, I'm very busy today, guys, and I love it. Like, having all these opportunities is great. I'm going to be back before I host Blue's show tonight on the radio. I'm going to be back on this platform in 2 hours. We're hosting 5 rounds MMA and boxing talk. So we will be hosting a combat sports discussion tonight. We do it every Thursday. I know I've seen a few people in the chat today, like our guy Tony 2 times. And yes, Tony, there he is. Yes, I'm doing all of it, my friend. Finishing up this show, then in 2 rounds, we got 5. In 2 hours, we have 5 rounds. And then right after 5 rounds, I'm going to be hosting Blue's show. So we are doing all of it today, man. And yeah, everyone wish Blue a speedy recovery. So thank you, Tony, for listening, for watching, I should say. Thank you, T-Bone. NFL is going to back Ross up and settle with B-Flow, and then Ross will be ousted. I could see it going down that way. Stephen Ross might end up being a blood sacrifice that the NFL might have to say, just to protect the shield, we need to offer a sacrifice here, and Stephen Ross is going to become the patsy. Like, I could see that. That's I don't have any inside information on that. That's just my opinion on how this could go. Sean, thank you for offering your prayers to Blue. He needs them, man. He doesn't need them as much as he did a couple weeks ago because he's made a ton of progress, but he still needs them, my friend. So let's get those going. Jim, thank you so much for tuning in. Jeff, thank you so much. I see some Russian spammers as well. Thanks, I guess, for coming on. Rich V, thank you so much for coming in. Real Deal, thank you. Chris C, thank you so much for watching today. Mike, Freddie, thank you so much. Elgeric Pearson, I'm sorry if I butchered your name. Mr. Pearson, thank you so much for tuning in. Every time I see more than 6 letters in a name, I panic. I'm like, there's a lot of letters in that name. I don't know what I'm going to do. So thank you so much for watching. Strontium Milks, thank you so much for tuning in today. So let me throw out some more shout outs. Mike, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you. Man, people always call me during the show. I don't know who this person is. It's like a random 561 number. I don't know. How important could it be? Who would call me from the 561? It says Jupiter, Florida. That sounds made up. And I know there's a real Jupiter, Florida, but it's also a planet. It's a little bit fishy. Who would name a city Jupiter? Martina, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you. Brooklyn Rob, thank you as always. Can't understand the Jesse Davis hate. Flo started him every game. He had to see something in him. Maybe Jesse Davis is mad that like Flo didn't bench him because Jesse Davis just became a punching bag for every Dolphin fan. So he's like, this guy keeps playing me. I'm terrible. The fans won't let me forget how terrible I am. Let me throw out a few more. Shake Money. Thank you so much for watching. 1777 memorabilia. They will just say conspiracy. I mean, this is the conspiracy nuts gravitate to this show because I entertain conspiracies. I don't always endorse them, but I do sometimes entertain them. I feel like if I had a show on Spotify, they would ban me or they would try to. I don't know. I don't know if I'm that bad. Let me see. And I actually, for what it's worth, I enjoy the Joe Rogan experience. I'm so open-minded with everything. It's like I don't know. So it takes a lot to like alarm me. Like I'm not a big cancel culture guy. I don't really, unless you're doing something really terrible. And there are people who deserve to get canceled. I don't necessarily think that Joe Rogan is one of those people. I enjoy his show. I legitimately enjoy his show. Brooklyn Rob, thank you so much for tuning in. I think I may have shouted you out already. This is I do this. I start to David, thank you so much. I'm glad you had fun today. We try. Hussam is always a lot of fun. Raging Dolphins Maniac, thank you. I may have shouted out Felipe already. You get a second shout out for being awesome. PB Matthew, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you. Trying to find some shout outs I haven't shouted out already. Hold on. Let me get a couple more, then we will be out of here for today because I got to get my 5 rounds notes ready. Fife Dog, thank you so much. We appreciate you tuning in. D-Weez, thank you so much for watching today. Joe, here it is. Had to click it twice for some reason. Thank you. Alfredo Artiaga. He says Hugh Jackson's allegations fell apart yesterday. He came off as stupid, actually. I don't know if I'd say, well, the part where he kept claiming he didn't understand tanking. Like it seemed pretty like he talked about, they had this like 4-year plan that didn't include winning. I didn't understand it. Like that kind of did seem kind of dumb. Ray said, I believe in Flores, not Hugh Jackson. Thank you, Ray. Let's see. Dream Machine X. Anthony, thank you for tuning in. Dominic. John. Yeah, there's only one right now. It's Mike Tomlin is the only black coach. Did you just accuse Donno of being an insensitive drunk? I'm a very sensitive drunk. All right, that'll do it for today. Make sure you support the Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill. BetUS.com with the code 5RSN125 and Prize Picks with the code 5 FIVE. We will talk to you guys again. Ooh, not tomorrow. I'm gonna be driving with the family up to Disney tomorrow. So unless maybe I'll do an emergency episode if the Dolphins hire a coach or something. Otherwise, I will talk to you guys 6:00 for 5 rounds, 8:00 on the South Florida High School Sports Show, filling in for Larry Bluestein, and then Monday right back here. Hold on, I got to try to find the outro. Here we go, right here on Donno Daily on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Ciao.